Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt,
And I'm Aaron Nospish.
and we're back again with the Symbio Cannabis podcast. Thanks for joining us. We got a special guest, Charles Smith. This is our CBD Entrepreneur Spotlight. So we're happy to be here with Charles. Thanks again, Charles, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Oh, yes, sir. It's going to be a beautiful conversation. I can tell already from meeting you just before this and talking a little bit. So I'm excited, man.
Thank you. Likewise.
So me and Charles met once before. We met a while back whenever Charles and his previous company were a client of ours for a short period of time. And Charles, I'd love if you start by just giving like a little bit of a background of who you are and how you've got involved in the cannabis industry and where you're at today.
Sure. I mean, I could take a very long time with that, given my background, but I'll keep it short and sweet.
We got time.
So yeah, as I was sharing with Matt earlier before we hopped on the podcast, I'm actually born and raised in Nigeria. Lived there for 18 years, and
Wow.
came to the U.S. for college, and ended up staying and working. Started off in big tobacco and worked in that field for 15 years. And then last year, just decided I had enough of that and wanted to work on something different. And, CBD was on my radar at that point, and just thought it'd be a good opportunity to use everything I learned working in big tobacco and parlay that into a field where, a lot of parallels with big tobacco at the moment, restrictions and regulations, and it is
Totally.
still somewhat taboo given the hemp, relationship. But started off doing some consulting for a small business local to where I am, and then got the opportunity to join, one of the largest retail CBD brands in the country, and was with them for about 6 months until, being a retail-based CBD brand, unfortunately, the impact of COVID on the business.
Totally.
I'm no longer with them, but great experience. Happy to talk about as much as I can, regarding that, and then obviously answer any questions that you guys have about the entire background. But that's me in a nutshell. So
That's awesome, Charles. You look too young to be doing something for 15 years.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'll take that.
Yeah. And so is that primarily marketing that you were doing there, or what was your role, and what has been your primary role?
Yeah. So starting off back in my school days, I've always had a passion for design and marketing. So I studied graphic design in undergrad and got my MBA in e-commerce. But I mean, this was like back in, I graduated from business school 2003. So this is when like Amazon was just getting hot.
Awesome.
And, all that. So, and then also got another degree in communication. So I've always had a passion for, when it comes to business, the audience, and how best to communicate and get your message across. And then in my career, I started off in communications, did that for a couple years, and then had the opportunity to hop over to marketing, and specifically digital marketing, and did that for the majority of my career. And then the last 4 or 5 years, sort of evolved into e-commerce from digital marketing. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Very, very cool. And your role in your last company, what was your role? I don't want to assume.
No, that's fine. Head of, sometimes, depending on the day, I had that same question, and I was working at the company too. So, it's a fair question. That's what happens when you work at a startup,
Oh, yeah.
No, I was responsible on paper for all marketing and all e-commerce, but there was also a lot of, customer service and new product development, molded into that as well. Yeah. So big role.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that gets heavy with the customer service and e-com and all this other stuff. Oh my God, man. You were probably working 12 hours a day at least.
Yeah, there were days when that was the norm. It was a lot of hats to wear, I mean, I enjoyed it. I love talking to the customer. I think at the end of the day, customers, regardless of what field you're in, customers that really focus on the customer service experience, and, in our field, to an extent, customer education, and really take time to help people understand, what they're buying and why they would be buying that, are going to be the guys that are standing at the end. That's not something that we could do at my last company. It's a very conservative company from a marketing standpoint. And I get that, but if you have customers that are reaching out to you, trying to understand your proposition and how it fits into their lifestyle and why they would choose you over a Charlotte's Web or a Fields
Absolutely.
populum, and you can't give that information, you know, it puts you at a competitive disadvantage. So, but
I think you're exactly right. And so for those of you who don't know, Charles, he was working with one of the largest CBD companies in any retail, or I guess it was the largest retail distributed CBD company, Reliva, and they did excellent. And they now, what happened though is, you know, we talked originally right when COVID was starting to hit. We were trying to transition into more e-commerce sales for you guys and see what you could do there. And I remember two things. We talked a lot about one, that, you know, they had this big transition from retail to digital when your company was really focused as a retail company, first and foremost. And then second, that you guys were very conservative and strict with FDA compliance. And you wanted to make sure that anything and everything you did was by the book, with no claims whatsoever. So I have two questions, and we'll start with one. The first one would be, I'd love to hear just kind of like how COVID affected you and your role in the largest CBD retail company there was, or CBD retail brand there was. And I'm sure that will give a lot of insight to a lot of different people who have experienced a little bit of similar things with maybe smaller brands or their own retail chains. And I'll follow that question up with, I'd really like to learn more about what your experience was like having such a conservative company. Where was that line? What did it feel like? But let's start with that first one. How was this transition? So coming in March, you start seeing what's going on. What happened, and how did you guys respond?
yeah, so great questions. And just to make sure that I answer them accurately, the first question is really specific to how COVID impacted
How it
the
impacted
business.
CBD retail business
Yeah,
in general, and then
yeah,
how you navigated that as best you can.
yeah. So to be honest, when we started to get an understanding of how dire the situation was going to be in terms of COVID's impact on retail-based businesses, I was trying to look for a silver lining in terms of, okay, you know, not how do you take advantage of this? That's not the right way to put it, but you know, how do you
Make
evolve,
lemonade out
right?
of
How do you
lemons.
pivot? Yeah, exactly. And you know, the hope was, the plan was to focus more on e-commerce, right? And use that very new platform for us, because that's one thing that we struggled with, is that from a retail standpoint, you know, we've been selling at retail for over 2 years, but from online standpoint, we only came on board in Q3, Q4 last year. So very, very new in that space.
Totally.
And, you know, so the aspiration was, okay, well, look, if we're going to get hammered at retail because of COVID, then, you know, let's sort of shift our weight over to online and figure out, you know, what levers we can pull to better connect with consumers in that space, right? And that's when we reached out to you guys, and you know, I was pushing to start that campaign that we had designed and almost kicked off. But because, you know, I was hoping that, okay, because of this COVID situation, that would impact our sales in a way positively, right? And you know, I'm not going to say that we didn't see any sort of pickup because of that, but again, given how, and this kind of delves into your second question, because we are so conservative with regards to our marketing, and again, we have very, very logical reasons for being this conservative, but because we were so conservative, we weren't able to activate those channels, those levers that would have really afforded us the opportunity to ramp up online, and take advantage of the fact that everybody's at home, everybody's on their computers or their tablets or their phones all the time, you know, and looking for things to buy to sort of alleviate, you know, the concerns of the day. So long story short, we did improve our e-com revenue, but not to the extent that I think we could have, given the current climate, if we had been able to take advantage of some marketing channels that we weren't able to. So
yep, makes total sense, man. Absolutely. And you guys weren't alone. It seems like it devastated an entire CBD retail industry all at once.
Oh
but
man, It's crazy. I've seen, like, we talk to a lot of brick and mortar store owners and people that sell into retail channels, into brick and mortar, and they're seeing 50 to 60% drop off in sales at least. Like,
Was it Spin Data that came out as a Spin Data? I forget who it was. I think we were talking to Acacia yesterday about that a little bit. They said Spin Data, I think, said they dropped 50 to 75% of total retail sales. It was a more specific number than that, but it was in that range.
Yeah, it was crazy. So that's like out of nowhere. Who could have prepared for that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, and I think that's a good sign of I don't want to say smart companies. I don't know what the right word is, but to your point, I mean, you can't prepare for something like this. But I think, you know, once you start to understand the writing on the wall in terms of how long it's going to be, potentially how long it could be around, and, you know, the impact that it's having, then it becomes, okay, well, how do we pivot, right? How do we evolve very quickly and take advantage of the situation to still be able to connect with our consumers or potential consumers in a way where you're informing them, you're educating them, you're reassuring them, and you're incentivizing them to come over and, you know, and give you a shot. So
absolutely.
yeah. And by far, to me, this is the fastest industry I've ever seen as far as having to pivot. And I've been in a bunch of different industries, and so the cannabis space, you have to be able to pivot fast. And like an example of that is how Delta 8 THC came out of nowhere, and now you see the manufacturers that jumped on it fast, they're making a fortune right now, even though it's a very gray area. But you know, it's just a point about pivoting, though. You know,
first mover advantage, you know.
So what was some of the things that maybe surprised you during COVID? I imagine you guys' retail sales dropped significantly, but what else happened during this period? Anything surprise you? Did anything win? Were there any retailers that were still doing well? What did that look like?
That's a great question. Honestly, I was so heads down on you know, just trying to do the best I could at my role at the company that I really was not paying attention to, you know, to the competition. I mean, I knew that other CBD retail brands were getting pulverized, and you know, that just caused me to focus even more on, you know, our website, our digital marketing efforts, and figure out how to make them as effective and as efficient as possible. But yeah, to be honest with you, I mean, I knew that things were sort of blowing up around me, but I just, you know, I just had my eye on the target.
Focused.
Was trying to.
I think that's great.
So like with that being said, Charles, do you see the future of the CBD industry being more focused on e-commerce based, and what do you see happening with brick and mortar?
Yeah.
And just industry trends as well. I'm kind of curious, like what do you think is going to be working and not working? And I know that, you know, you've had experience selling a full line of CBD products, from everything from topicals to tinctures to some unique instant drink things, some special things like that. So what are you seeing both at the present day industry trends? What are you expecting in the future from brick and mortar standpoint and just a success standpoint?
Yeah, brick and mortar, honestly, you know, I feel like an imposter if I try to answer that question, because I'm an e-commerce guy, you know. That's my domain.
Totally.
And I mean, look at what happened with COVID, you know, and just how this came out of nowhere. And who's to say that, you know, something, I can't think of anything, but just, you know, something comes out, you know, in the next 6 months that has a positive effect on the retail industry. It kind of swings everything back the other way, you know. I mean, who's to say that couldn't happen?
Exactly.
This is life we're talking about. But right now, I mean, from my understanding is, I mean, across the board, not just CBD, retail, what have you, but you know, retail establishments or establishments that are relying on the vast majority of their income, you know, coming from retail, it's going to be brutal, you know, unless they can figure out ways to. And this was something that I played with a little bit at my time at Reliva, not a whole lot, but you know, if you're already in the retail space and you've made that investment, and you know, consumers know that you have a presence there, how do you amplify that? So you know, trying to get people into your online store to purchase, but if you have those retail partnerships and that retail presence, what can you do to again sort of amplify your presence there, reassure customers that the product's there, it's in stock, and if they're trying to find you, they can still find you at retail. I think that's all that you can do, because that's all that you can really control in situations like this.
Yep.
And there's so much that is out of your control. But aside from that, I think the stores that are, or the brands that are predominantly online, are just at a competitive advantage, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's so basic. They can find you online on their own time. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to put on a mask, etc. And they can have your products, or branch products sent to them. Try it out. If you like it, great. If not, move on to the next one. I mean, there's so many options when it comes to CBD right now. So yeah, I mean, I think in a nutshell, online players that have focused on online, they're at the competitive advantage. They're in a good position to win out. Again, not saying that in this crazy world that we're living in, something couldn't happen where it swings favor back towards brick and mortar. But if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would say stay away from making any additional brick and mortar investments. If possible, focus on online, really build yourself out there, and then parlay that. And I think a lot of smart direct-to-consumer brands, including some CBD brands, are doing this, where Populum is one that comes to mind, where they've done such a good job online that they're able to now parlay that online success into getting into the retail establishments that best fit their brand and that they want to get into. A lot of times you have to beat down the door to get into brick and mortar, because it's already so saturated, right?
Absolutely.
And this is the main reason why I am an e-com guy, because in my 15 years working in big tobacco, I saw how much money and how much investment and effort went into those retailer relationships. And I just felt like it was crazy. Like, if you just took a fraction of that investment and that time and that energy and invested that in an online platform, you could probably sell just as much, if not more. Okay, maybe not for cigarettes, because you can't sell cigarettes online, but just generally speaking, I saw how inefficient it was to go through the retail channel. And again, that just really sort of solidified my approach as an online guy, because you can interact directly with the consumer, give them your proposition very quickly, very succinctly. I don't know. It's just way more efficient. So
it's a great point, because like even in the cannabis world now, in the dispensaries, they're charging slotting fees and all this stuff. And it's like, that's why I can't wait to be able to sell THC products e-commerce, so that's going to be exciting when that happens. And
yeah, for sure.
And you made a good point about the brand Populum. I've been in the CBD industry since 2013.
Oh, wow.
I believe they were the first high-end CBD
early
brand.
D2C.
Yeah. And they were the highest price. They had really high-end branding, and they've done a great job to establish themselves. And so that's why those particular specialized retailers are probably reaching out to them, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah. I really admire, what they've done with that brand in the amount of time. And it's very admirable. So
totally. It's a really unique thing. I agree. I think direct to consumer e-commerce, you have a strategic advantage that's just hard to beat. And especially in times like this, obviously, we saw a big rise in traffic across every store that we work with, including on our own. And like, it was just clear that was the place to be in the time. But now being here in July 2020, what do you think that is going to be the most important things really for e-commerce companies to win out? You mentioned a couple of things about exceptional customer experience, exceptional customer service. But what other things do you think are going to be like the important things to be focused on going for the rest of 2020 and 2021?
Yeah, it's a great question. Across the board, not just for CBD, but I think any industry, any field, etc. To me, it just comes down to customer service. And it's so sort of basic and unsexy, but you can shop with a brand for 10 years and you call them up and you get somebody on the other end of the phone that's having a
Yep.
bad day, and that's it. Like you'll never patronize that business again,
Yep.
or you can be on the phone chatting with a customer about something, and they make a point about something a competitor is doing or an idea they have for a product, and it's like, holy cow, like that's genius.
Yep.
So for me, I really do believe that customer service is the ultimate competitive advantage. And again, any company in any industry or any field that really focuses on that and minds it, and designs it the way that it should be designed, they're going to win out. But then, kind of specific to your question, I sort of struggle with the whole approach of education, because I do believe that CBD brands that take time to educate consumers and potential consumers are definitely going to be at an advantage to those that don't. But I also don't know if, I look at the company that I was with prior, and I mean, we were doing pretty well for a brand that, because of our marketing restrictions and adherence to regulations and what have you, was not saying anything about how to use the product or why you should use the product, or if it works and for whom. And so, maybe it's not that important to spend a lot of time and energy on education, because people are going and doing that education on their own. They're talking to their friends, they're talking to their medical servicers, what have you. But that aside, I think that if somebody can come to your website and find out everything about yourself, find out everything about how the product is made and how to use it and why to use it, that's just gonna be better for you. I mean, I've come across a lot of CBD websites where it's just like, here's the product, basically.
Yep.
And here's some questionable reviews, somewhat sketchy reviews,
Totally.
and a picture of a farm somewhere,
a mountaintop.
with the person like at the top of the mountain, like doing the victory dance. It's like, okay. And then you go to Fields.com, which is one of my favorite
Ours
brands.
too.
Yeah. And how they've laid out the information and what they have available, or Joy Organics, with their CBD 101 booklet. And I'm like, this is how you should be doing it. Like, regardless of what, what's getting the most traction, like just having that full proposition for a new customer where it's answering every question, it's alleviating any concern they might have about doing business with you. Like that's the right way to do it. But I feel like you have a lot of people that are just in it for the quick buck, right? So they're not going to make any additional investment, especially right now with COVID, that more than they have to just be in business and make money. So it's those guys are like the founder of Populum. I don't remember his name, but you can just tell if you read his story, or read about his story rather, that he really believes in this business, and he's been there since the beginning. I consider him a pioneer, and he's got the right mindset for longevity in the business, and he's covered all his bases, and that comes from a genuine
passion,
belief in the product, and what it can do for people, and that really comes through. And so, I guess, like, very long-windedly, to answer your question, it really kind of comes down to just how much passion there is behind the brand, and how that is sort of materialized on the website in terms of everything from the product selection to the descriptions of how and why to use the products, to the customer service, like just making sure that every aspect of your business is very well designed to address any consumer questions or concerns or inquiries that they might have about your brand.
Gotcha. And Charles, it seems like you really pay attention to a lot of brands, I can tell. And so, like, if you were launching your own CBD brand today, what kind of brand would you launch? And like, what would your target niche be? And like, how much money would you want to have as a budget?
Oh, man, that's a great question. So it's funny you asked that, because who knows what the future might bring? I mean, with my experience with Reliva and seeing everything that's
Charles
out
gonna
there,
launch a brand.
well, it's, I mean, or at least, consult and help brands benefit from what I experienced firsthand working for one of the biggest CBD, companies in the country. I think that if I was going to start a CBD brand, something that, how do I put it? So from a product standpoint, I know that there is innovation, but generally speaking, everybody's selling sort of the same stuff. And if you guys disagree with that, please let me know, because that would be, good education for me. But I mean, there's the gummies, there's the tinctures, there's the vapes, there's the creams, then you've got a few other, honey sticks and what have you, like sort of unusual, interesting propositions. But generally speaking, that main portfolio, I'd say 70 to 80% of it is the same across the board, right? Yeah. And so, I think probably what I would do is really focus on individuals who are new to the space, because even though, all of us are, well, I mean, I'm a baby compared to you guys, and especially to you, if you've been in the space since 2013, you said?
2013 or 14. So I'm a stoner somewhere around there, though. Late 2013.
Yeah. So, I think what I would do is, sorry, my point there was, to us, we know so much about CBD and what it can do and the potential it has, but there's still a ton of people out there that this is, this is an enigma.
There's so many people that don't know what CBD is. It's amazing. Like we take it for granted, like you said, because we're in the mix every day. But there's so many people that don't even know. You could say CBD and they're like, "What's CBD?"
Yeah. Yeah. This is a small aside, but I do Airbnb as well. And I own properties at Airbnb. And I've been doing that since 2013, I guess. And I can't tell you how shocked I am when I tell people about that business that I have. And they're like, what's Airbnb? I'm like,
I use it all the time.
Are you serious?
I got some questions for you later then, Charles, about that.
Oh, please, by all means. But that just illustrates my point about, or reinforces my point about, again, we think everybody knows about CBD, right? But really, we're probably in the minority at this point, domestically and definitely internationally. So I think I would probably just focus on, individuals that are new to the space and interested because they're looking, for something natural and healthy to deal with insomnia or anxiety. And I'm not saying that these things will work for everybody or anybody. I'm just saying that that's, what anecdotally people are using these products for. And incidentally, I've used it for I've used it in the past, and it's worked for me. People in my family use it, so I definitely believe in it. I have no question that it works. But again, just be very, very focused. Maybe do the feels approach. Maybe not with tinctures, maybe with gummies. So maybe something like Not Pot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Not Pot.
Yeah, that's a great man.
That's another great brand that looks like they're crushing it. I mean, they always seem to be sold out whenever I go to their website to see what new flavors they have. So I don't know what's going on there, but maybe start off, keep it simple, pick a narrow consumer segment. So, maybe it's young professionals, 21 or 20 to 35, one kind of product. So it's really simple to kind of introduce them to CBD, stellar customer service. And then also, in this day and age, don't do it if you're not, don't do it as a marketing ploy. Only do it if you're sincere. But something that really appeals to me is like with Not Pot, a big part of their proposition is social justice. And I think, there's the bail project where they pay for bail. Every order or I don't remember the parameters, but they basically
social
said,
conscious mission. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like we're taking a stand on this particular topic and we're backing it up by, either making a donation or, getting involved politically or whatever. And I think that, again, you have to be sincere about that. Don't just do it as a marketing ploy. But,
man, Charles, have you been watching me and Aaron's videos? Like everything you're saying is what we believe in too.
So you know what? I have not, but I noticed, how did I don't remember how I saw it, but one of your earlier podcasts, you were talking about how to advertise. Oh, I think it was a Facebook group that we're both in right now, like CBD marketing and affiliates or something like that. I
Ads
think,
and affiliates, I think. Yeah.
I hope I'm not making this up, but anyway, I believe you had posted one of your podcasts talking about how to um, market successfully on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
And so I actually, if I were to close this Zoom window and you could see my tabs, you'd see that one of the tabs is YouTube, and that
Oh,
particular
awesome.
podcast, I have that slated to watch that later today, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but to answer your question, no, I haven't. But believe me, I will certainly be.
Oh man, we're cut
watching
from the
one of
same cloth
podcasts.
though, Charles. Like everything you were just saying is exact same principles that me and Aaron believe in. So like
Absolutely.
just stripping it down, minimalism, starting with one SKU, maybe
Yeah.
two, just and building the audience and then rolling out more SKUs once you have your trust built with your audience.
That's right.
I think that's the way to do it. And get their feedback, integrate them. It's direct with consumer is better than direct to consumer. If you can get them to grow the business together, that's the way to do it. And I think you're right about customer service. I think it is one of the most easily overlooked. It's one of those things, oh yeah, we got customer service, don't worry about it. But if you really take the time to be customer obsessed, to make sure that every touch point of their experience is just top notch, that every question that comes in is answered quickly, that any problems are addressed swiftly and effectively. We had a policy at Monk where like people would just tell us they didn't like the product. We'd say full refund, done. And that level, and we say give it to your friend. That level of customer experience though allowed us to really create a name for us that allowed our Facebook and Instagram and our advertising traffic and our influencer marketing traffic to kind of fuel our word of mouth traffic because of our customer service being so effective. So I think it is definitely the way to go. Man, Charles, I'm excited, man. You're gonna be on a awesome. I can't wait to see the next thing you do, because you got it figured out.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And actually, if I can just piggyback off what you just said,
Please.
I mean, something that I'll say about Reliva that I really admire about that company is the focus on customer service. And actually, something that I did, every single inquiry that came into our website, I made a point of, if they left their phone number, I'd call them.
Oh, really?
Whether it was a complaint about something or having an issue using our website or whatever, just call and say, hey, this is Charles from Reliva, got your message, and just wanted to give you a call and talk through it if that's okay. And look, I'm telling you, especially in this day and age where it's like almost impossible to get a human on the other end without hitting zero like 17 times, people really, you can't even quantify it. People really, really respond to that level of attention and, appreciation as a business, where you're actually, they don't even have to call you. You're calling them and saying, hey, we're going to refund this, we're going to help you do this. We're going to answer this for you. It makes a huge difference. And, it takes time. And sometimes you get customers that are pretty chatty and want to talk about what they've done like the last month. But, but it kind of comes back to your direct with consumer versus, direct to consumer.
Yep.
You bring them along, you turn them into ambassadors just through a 5-minute phone call where they're going and telling their friends and family saying, hey, if you're interested in CBD, here's the brand to try. And if you have any issues, Charles is the guy to reach out to and he'll take care of you. I mean,
absolutely.
There's no substitute for that, in my opinion.
No, it's not. The human touch and the humanness, we always talk about that, bringing humanness to the brand. And one of our clients hired a naturopathic doctor to answer calls, and people could call the doctor, ask questions. Their sales skyrocketed.
Yeah. So if I can just hook on to that, actually, and I should have mentioned this earlier, but if I were ever to get into this space with my own brand or my own business, that would absolutely be something, whether it's, a format like this or Instagram Live or Facebook Live or whatever, I'm not the most technical when it comes to that kind of stuff. But my point is giving them a friendly face that they can see and that they can pose questions to, instead of having to do this research on their own and, go to this website and that website. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. And if you have the resources to do that, that should absolutely be in your toolkit. So I'm glad to hear that. I don't know the brand, but whoever, chose to do that, I'm not surprised to hear that it's paying dividends, because who wouldn't want that for, a new product that they have questions about, but they want to use.
Yeah,
I
and
think
then
it's key.
another one of our clients is Sarah Labs. They just sold for $20 million yesterday or the day before, and
Wow.
they had complete phone teams. Like if a partial order went through, they would call on the partials. You know, just anything to get people on the phone, and I love that. Just that
Yeah.
human
too.
touch.
Yeah.
And we also have another of our clients, CBD Dog Health, with Angela Ardolino. She's a huge face in the CBD the pet community and the dog health community, and we advertise often from her page instead of the brand, which furthers that humanization, it furthers that personal contact. You start building a relationship. It's hard. It's not impossible. You build relationships with companies, but it's easier to build those relationships with brands and companies whenever you facilitate it with some humanized aspects, some of the people behind it, what's really going on. I think these are great points, man. I think you got a lot figured out. I wish you the best, man. I hope that you do start your own brand. But even if you don't, I look forward to witnessing everything you do, both in this industry and outside of it. And I hope you come back on our show sometime soon.
Would love to. This is actually the first podcast I've done. So, had fun. I don't think I screwed it up too badly. So
No,
you
man,
did great.
you guys didn't cut me off yet. So I'd be happy to come back for a second round anytime. Let me know.
That's great. Thanks again for joining us, Charles. And I'll be hitting
Thanks.
you up. I got some questions about Airbnb and then some other opportunities too.
Yeah, please do. Absolutely. I'd love to answer any questions you have on that front. And if I can, provide any sort of guidance based off my experience, with CBD or big tobacco, let me know. I'm happy to be a resource and I love to share. So, yeah.
And real quick, Charles, where can people find you if they wanted to get a hold of you?
Oh, sure. Let's see.
Website or an email address, maybe? LinkedIn?
Yeah, I just, so my personal email address, feel free. It's dele.smith@gmail.com.
Okay.
Send me an email there. I'd be more than happy to help however I can. So.
Gotcha,
Awesome.
Charles. Thanks again. And we'll be talking to you soon.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for the great content. Really appreciate it. Please keep it coming. And I'll be checking out the other podcasts that you guys have put out probably later today. So
Nice,
awesome.
man.
Thanks, Charles.
Cool.
Thank you guys
Thanks.
for listening.
All right,
We
guys.
appreciate it.
Anytime. Take care.